Hi everyone, GM Kraai here, and I recently did a video called An Easy System Against the French. And the basis of that video was to address the French in a psychological way, to get at some of the hidden things that a French player doesn't like. And I got a great response to that video, but some I think were uncomfortable with the idea of sacrificing a pawn from their own side. Not just, even if they realized that it was difficult for the French player, that they were uncomfortable with sacrificing the pawn. And what that made me realize is to think about two different kinds of e4 players. Some players really like the aggression with the e4, but some players actually want to dial it back. And that made me think that there's actually a second way into the French player's soul. And French players talk about this amongst themselves, and that is the French exchange. And it really is one of the greatest fears of a French player. And one of the things about it that's interesting to me is it's rarely played against me, whereas it's clear white has the advantage just because he has the extra tempo. But even when it is played against me, I get all kinds of weird moves, like bishop d3 now, or c4, or bishop f4, all kinds of weird stuff that doesn't make sense. Whereas it's clear knight f3 is the best move. And what this points to, I think, is that white players somehow think that this is an equal position and they just don't want to deal with it. And there's a kind of, when you think about it, there's a kind of machismo thing in there, like I have to prove that I have the advantage with white. And as a black player, when they play c4 or whatever, it's like, great. Now we're just going to play a game of imbalanced chess and we're going to have a good time, opening over, basically. Whereas with knight f3, what you're going to do is you're going to tell black, are you really comfortable with this kind of symmetry? And what you'll find is if you actually play knight f3, is black players will jerk. And what I mean by jerk is that's like a Russian phrase for somebody who feels provoked and then does something weird. They lose the balance themselves. And so the idea of this is to say, first of all, even if they go down a straight path, you will still retain a small advantage because you have that extra tempo. But what will more likely happen is they will not go down a straight path because they are looking to mix it up. And the other thing about it is French players just like that structure where it is, where we get the trench warfare. Right? And so kind of like the way the exchange King's Indian messes with the King's Indian player's soul, taking on d5 does the same to the French. And like my easy system, this is very simple to learn, and you really just need to know a couple things. One of the first things that you will see is a system where black tries to get violent. And of course, I tried this myself. There's many different move orders. You can imagine the following happening. Black tries to get violent with castling queenside and going for it on the king side. But what I found with this is already very much bad news for black, because white is faster on the jump here. So, for example, castles b4, we're threatening to dislocate the knight on c6, knight g6, b5, knight e7, queen a4. If you want, actually, you can play queen a4 first. It's kind of an embarrassment of riches because you are just faster here. King b8, b5. By the way, if they play rook e8, it's not actually a threat. You can still play b5 because you can recapture with a knight. So king b8, b5, knight e7, knight e5. The guy's got to take. And beautiful two-bishop position already where we have the initiative. Simple thing, when opposite sides castling is going to happen, the value of the initiative goes up and the value of material goes down. But here we're not even sacking anything. Well, we can. Let's say here, you could take on d4, you could play c4 too. But this is a very pleasant position. Let's say, for example, this. You will get back all your pawns and you will get that attack upon the king. So that's going to be one of the key ways in which they can jerk, right? They are going to be the ones to do something weird. Another common thing that you will see is at some point they play c5. And this is just bad because here we can, say, do this. There's more than one move besides knight e5. And a simple way actually to understand c5 is just to compare it with this position here with knight d2, c5 here, taking back. And so it's just much better because the knight on d2 is a silly piece. Now, he could do it a different way. He could wait a move. Maybe that's a little bit better. But we're still going to castle. And if c4, we're going to play rook e1 check, bishop f1, and b3 next. Well, nice position. Nice position. Okay, so let's consider what could be called the main line. Bishop d6, bishop d3, knight f6. Maybe you could also consider knight e7, but already what Black's doing something a little weird by putting his knight there. For example, castles, castles, bishop g5. And I guess you're going to have to do something like f6. And then on a move like that, just play c4. And we've got an advantage. There's a little bit of pressure against the king. So again, this is for the kind of e4 player that wants to pull minimal risk, but also touch the French player's delicate soul. All right, let's look at now the variation that I guess in French circles or whatever has been considered the dead drawn position. And I want to say first of all, there's more life to it than you might think, but also that it is unpleasant for most French players to face this. And that's why they won't go down this road. This has been seen a million times, and if you look it up in the database, it's just like it's been seen a lot. And you know, if you're the kind of French player who is content with equality, maybe you would go for this. But it turns out, no, it's not that simple. h3 and knight h4 is actually a very powerful maneuver. And the only thing you really have to know here to understand that this is good for white is that check to the miserable king and bishop f4 looks kind of frightening. But after g3, we have a very nice advantage. So this is a very simple system. Again, these openings, I really think the most dangerous openings you can learn are the ones you can master in like 5 to 10 minutes, at least the basic ideas. And I just want to finish by saying, well, the question that some of you are going to say, one might be, why are you betraying the French players? But the other one is, well, Jesse, what about you playing the French? Why do you do this? Why do you allow the exchange? And the key thing is that I've very rarely had anyone play a straight exchange against me. I've seen far more like weird King's Indian attacks, and almost 90% of the time you're going to get knight d2 or knight c3 here, which is going to lead to an interesting game. And maybe the computer might say that white has a small advantage there, but it's actually a very rich and interesting game. Whereas takes, well, that would, if you play it straight especially, that would touch my soul. So I wanted to put that out there for the more mellow e4 players, to give them also a window into how to mess with a guy like my soul. All right. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.